Welcome back to Briggs on Books, our international talk show where I get to talk to authors from all over the world on fascinating subjects and hear about their work and their ideas and how they got their book published, which is sometimes quite difficult to do so. Today, we have a very, very important guest all the way from England who's going to talk to us about reclaiming our health in various ways, various illnesses. Let me see. Here, by the way, here's the cover of his book. I always get that backwards. Reclaim Your Health, Alzheimer's Disease. He also has books, Reclaim Your Health, Cancer, and other books. So we're going to take a look at all of them. And most of all, we're going to hear from Dr. Harris Phillip himself. Welcome, Dr. Phillip.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, I want to start by saying there's a lot of books out there about health and how to get healthier. But you have a unique background because you're a doctor. And you've been treating people for these various illnesses for how many years now?
In excess of 31 years.
Yeah. I'm very excited about reading these because I always feel like me just eating and putting into my mouth and body whatever I come across, maybe I should be thinking about it a little more. Dr. Harris, which book should we start with?
We could start with the first book, the one on cancer.
Okay. And here's the cover of that book, Reclaim Your Health, Cancer. And you believe that maybe we could take some preventative steps. We don't have to wait for the cancer to show up. There's things we could do by how we eat or how we take... go ahead, I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, well, the thing is, to start off, I'll just give you a little background on myself to get you a clearer picture as to the level of experience that goes into writing those books. I started my professional career as a high school teacher.
Oh.
After that, I did 2 degrees in chemistry and biochemistry. Then I went into medical school. I have been working as a medical doctor for in excess of 31 years, in excess of 18 years in a senior capacity. But as you go through life, to me, essentially, I believe that life is what you call a dash between 2 points, date of birth and date of death. And in between that time, you have the dash. Now, what you do during the dash can determine when your date of death is. So these books were written based on my background to try to see if we can extend the dash for individuals. In fact, I'll give you a little story. My paternal grandmother lived for 115 years.
Wow.
115 years, and she did not spend a night in the hospital until about a month before she passed on. She was able to take care of herself. She didn't need any nursing home or anything along those lines. So I got fascinated with that, and I said, well, what is it about her that has given her this longevity? So I, in my own little way, studied her life. And because of my background in the chemistry and biochemistry, and now in medicine, I was able to reflect a little bit on what factors that has led to that. I've come up with a little theory that your life, what happens to you as far as your health is concerned, is based on your environment. Either the external environment or your internal environment. So the whole focus of this series really is giving you little tidbits that helps you to improve the quality of your life, improve your health, and as such, prolong the dash. My first book on cancer gives you it's a mixture of my background in terms of my chemistry background and my medical knowledge. From chemistry, I understood the sort of cellular level or the molecular level at which diseases happen. And as such, I was able to come up with an idea that the better or the sooner you can find a disease, the greater options you have in terms of its treatment. So I started looking at the molecular level of disease. What happens to cause a cell to become a cancerous cell, for example? What happens to cause a cell to become rogue? I realized that individuals have an internal mechanism which protects them from certain ailments, including cancer. So we have our own internal machinery to fight off cancers. So what happens? Why do we get cancer? It has to do with changes in our internal milieu as a result of what we may have exposed ourselves to. Just simply, we all drink water, right? But most of the water around us is chlorinated water.
Right.
Now, they tell us that they use chlorine in the water in order to sanitize the water, get rid of microorganisms that are potentially pathogens. From my chemistry background, I understand that the chlorine is a potent oxidizing agent. So through the process of oxidation, it's able to destroy these microorganisms. But the action of chlorine does not stop there. After we drink the water, it starts destroying our microbiome. That's the microorganisms inside our body. As a result, we find that there's an increasing incidence of bowel cancer. And after we collect water, after we drink water, we eventually pee it out. Our bladder is a receptacle for the urine.
Yep.
So eventually we have to collect that water, that urine, in our bladders. So you also find that there's an increased incidence of bladder cancers in individuals who expose themselves to chlorinated water. And I'll tell you this, there's no way on this planet where people are exposed to chlorinated water who do not suffer from cardiovascular disease.
Wow.
All right? So the question is there some information that we need to learn to protect us from ourselves? And that is the basis from which the book on cancer is written. I looked at the cellular level. I realized that a cancer cell uses 200 times more glucose than a normal cell. Glucose is the energy currency of the cell. So to give you energy to do anything, you need the glucose. Now, if a cancerous cell takes 200% of the glucose that you're exposed to, you can begin to understand why people who suffer from cancer start looking emaciated, weak, losing their energy, and unable to do much. Okay? So these books help to present that information to individuals. Now, I try to develop the information in a simple, easy to read format. So whoever, you haven't got to be medicalized to read and understand what's there. I'm trying to make it available to individuals, irrespective of your background, to help you to understand this is what happens with cancer, but I'm also giving you some common sense measures that you can take. For example, I approach this from a holistic standpoint. We don't only need chemicals, we came up with therapeutic agents to treat cancer. We can use different non-pharmacological agents, even fruits, for example. The soursop fruit, I don't know if you're familiar with that. That is a fruit which it's a plant really. The fruit it produces, its bark, its leaves, all aspects of that plant are known to be effective against cancer. Additionally, we find in the Western world, the incidence of cancer is much higher than it is in the Eastern world. The question, why is that so? From our research, we found that the people in the Eastern world, say Japan, tend to use a high incidence of a brown slimy mold for their food, right? That food has a particular agent in it which gives the body additional fighting ability to fight against cancer. Hence, the incidence of cancer, for example, in the West is about 445 incidents per 100,000 persons. In the Eastern world, it's about 138. So you see there's a marked difference.
Yeah.
So as such, the value of this book on cancer, I believe, give people useful tools that they can use to help themselves to be the best version, the cancer-free version of themselves.
Right.
But I'm also telling people, don't just take what's written in the book. talk to your GP before you embark on any practice.
Right.
So not because I mentioned so or so for you to think, well, oh, the doctor tell me I have cancer of wherever, so I'm going to consume a lot more so or so. That's not the advice. The advice is you will have this information, you can go and discuss it in a sensible manner with your doctor, you know, and together you formulate a plan by which you can use this holistic approach towards the treatment of your disease condition. So the whole thrust of these books are designed to give people small bite-sized portions of information that is readily usable.
This is, and I like what you said. This isn't written for scientists. This is written for everyday people. We will be able to understand the book.
Exactly.
But it also sounds like maybe doctors could make use of this book as well.
Exactly. Everybody. Actually. It's a perfect handbook, I think, for the ordinary man, the non-medicalized person, the students, nursing student, pharmacological students, midwifery students, the medical doctor in training, and even senior doctors.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it. I'm just blown away by the amount of information that I've gotten through this short interview. This is amazing, Dr. Phillip. By the way, and we don't have time to go into each one in great detail, but here's one about Alzheimer's disease.
Okay, I was just about to talk about that. And because of the time constraint, I'll just give you just this little pebble. Would you be surprised if I was to tell you that there's a relationship between Alzheimer's disease and herpes simplex virus type 1?
I would never have guessed that.
Okay. Now we have found the DNA of herpes simplex virus in about 70 to 100% of the brains of Alzheimer's sufferers. Now you might say, well, herpes simplex virus just affects your mouth, your neck area, your facial area. So how does it get to the brain? Now, I'm going to ask you to just stretch your thought process a bit. If we think about chicken pox, for example, varicella, that is a bit of a nuisance in childhood. Little pustules on your skin which itches quite a lot.
Yep.
However, later in life, if you are stressed for any reason, you'll find little red patches on your skin we call herpes.
Is that like
zoster.
shingles?
We call it shingles, yeah, but it's caused by herpes zoster.
Okay.
The question is, where did that come from? That varicella virus lived in the nerve roots, and when your immune system is suppressed, it manifests itself as these red patches we call shingles. Okay, now interestingly, a varicella is a herpes type virus. So it's not surprising, it's not far-fetched to think of herpes virus affecting your mouth area and having to travel a short distance to get to your brain. So the incidence of the DNA of herpes virus, finding it 70 to 100% of cases with Alzheimer's disease in the brain of Alzheimer's disease sufferers is not coincidental. So we think that there is a relationship between herpes and Alzheimer's disease. So knowing that, part of the therapeutic approach should involve something like acyclovir. That's an antiviral preparation that doesn't kill the herpes, but it suppresses it. So it slows down its ability to extend itself or to spread itself. Okay, so that same information is contained in these books, which hopefully will allow a potential patient to talk to his doctor intelligently, and he has the reference as the book.
Right.
Additionally, there is a book on cardiovascular disease, and like we said earlier, in the interest of time, we'll just touch some pearls or one particular pearl in the book. In the book on cardiovascular disease, the first two chapters talks about statins. Now there has been an explosion of statins virtually all across the world. The numbers of statins being prescribed are on the increase, but statins are poisonous. right? There has been cases of people who have been compliant on statins, but they still pass on because of cardiovascular disease. Okay, so the question is, why is that so? Now, the talk is, oh, statins help to suppress cholesterol, so as such, by using statins, you reduce the exposure to cholesterol and its ill effects. But if I also tell you that cholesterol is actually very useful to us, because cholesterol is necessary for the formation of some hormones, it's necessary for repair of our body tissues, and our body actually produces cholesterol. And contrary to what we have been told in the past, we talk about HDL, high density lipoprotein, and low density lipoprotein. We are told that high density lipoprotein is the good cholesterol and LDL is the bad cholesterol. LDL is not the bad cholesterol. That may shock you. It's the oxidized form of LDL that's the bad cholesterol. The oxidized form is smaller and it's sticky. So it sticks to our blood vessels, and as such with time narrows the vessels, and as such compromises the blood supply to organs distally.
I've been diagnosed with very high blood pressure, Dr. Phillip. Will this book help me develop some treatment for that?
For the high blood pressure, yes, it's going to help you. Because we look, again, I told you, like, I have a chemistry background, so we look at molecular and atomic levels before we present anything. So we give you a background through which you can think about what you're doing, what you're exposing yourself to, and how it's likely to work.
Right. And by the way, I'm very excited about all of these books we've looked at so far. I just want to tell our viewers that here's 3 more books coming out. Tell us what areas these other books will touch on.
Okay, those books are going to be published on the 17th of this month.
Okay.
The book on diabetes is giving you a sort of roadmap as to how diabetes comes into being. If I was to tell you, for example, that although we are told about the lack of insulin, the shortage of insulin is one of the major causes of diabetes, I could tell you probably that glucagon is probably playing a significant role in the development of diabetes, and that may seem strange. But that is factual, it is true, the evidence is there for glucagon as a major cause of diabetes. So the book on diabetes deals with that. We talk about risk factors for diabetes and how you can protect yourself. For example, as an obstetrician and gynecologist, I see patients all the time with what we call gestational diabetes. Yeah. I tell them that that is a warning sign that all is not right. It increases your chances of developing diabetes later in life. So as such, now that you have been exposed to gestational diabetes, there are certain common sense measures you can take to reduce your risk of eventually developing diabetes. So that helps, that's the way the book helps to give you a sort of forewarning as to things you can do to reduce your chance of developing diabetes. Then we talk about stress management, which is another book that is due to be published on the 17th of this month. That book on stress management helps one to be able to manage chronic stress efficiently. Now you might say, well, hey, stress is normal. Everybody experiences stress. Yep. Everybody experiences stress, and stress can be protected. But we have 2 different types of stress. We have acute stress. If you're being attacked by an animal, the defensive mechanism you take to protect yourself, versus ongoing chronic stress and what it can do to your blood pressure, to your risk of diabetes, to your weight, and such alike. So in that book, we address stress, and we have developed a special, unique branded solution as to how you can control and manage your stress levels. Okay, so all of that is in that book, and again, it is written in a relatively simple tone, trying to reduce the amount of medical speak so anybody can understand it. Yeah. And the third book that is available is on obesity. Now, obesity is a challenge of modern day medical practice. You might say it's because of the food we're exposed to, it may be because of this, lack of activity, poor planning, and stuff and such alike. And all of those may contribute. But that may not be the only, or those may not be the only causes. So in that book on obesity, we reflect on the various plausible causes of obesity and how best we can address that to ensure that we not only live a longer period in the dash, but we also live a healthier period. We enjoy a healthier form of life.
Right.
Because without health, our productivity declines and our life becomes less meaningful.
I feel like you're saying all your books, we don't have to wait till we get these illnesses. We could start now preparing so maybe we could prevent getting the illnesses or maybe not have it so badly when it does come.
Well, that's the intention. The intention is to allow you to realize if you're going to treat any type of disease effectively, the earlier it is diagnosed, the more effective or the more options you have in terms of the treatment and the more effective the treatment is going to be. So by telling you those things, at least whetting your appetite to know, hey, there is an issue with regards to cancer, because in the book on cancer, for example, we look at the various types of cancer and symptoms associated with that. So if you start having those symptoms, you go having a talk to your GP. Could I be investigated for this? Could I be investigated for that? If you're diagnosed, you know that these are the sort of approaches you could take. For example, in cancer, you have 3 different therapeutic approaches. We talk about surgery, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy. Now, all those have specific indications. So that is in the book, and you'll be able to discuss that with your GP. Additionally, in the book on Alzheimer's, like we said earlier, we talked about herpes simplex virus and the fact that some acyclovir V could help to sustain the rapidity of the progression of the disease. You know, so there are little bits of pearls in the books which can help you to live a more effective and healthier life in the period between the 2 dates.
Yeah, we're way past time, Dr. Phillip. I'm getting these books. This is just what I've been looking for. I'm going to start with the cardiovascular disease book and then move on. But I have friends, Alzheimer's and cancer. I'm going to give these books out to a few people as I get a hold of them. And then I look forward to later this month. Here's the other 3 books that are coming out. And where can people get these books, Dr. Phillip?
Those books are available on Amazon.
Okay.
And they can also be obtained from my website. That is philburnacademy.com.
I want to end with a couple thoughts, Dr. Phillip. I know you're in England somewhere, but your accent is a little different. Is it Caribbean?
Yes, it's from the Caribbean. You have a very good air. From the Caribbean.
And you were born in Dominica?
Dominica, yeah.
Okay, very good. Anyway, you're a fascinating person. I'm inspired by what you've written, and I wish I could read all the books of the authors that I talk to on this show. I cannot, but these are important books, and I'm going to read them. I want to thank you for bringing them to us and to our viewers. Any last thoughts that you want to share with our viewers?
Well, the intention in writing these books is to ensure that we equipped people with tools that they can use to easily modify their lifestyles and encourage a healthier practice as far as life is concerned. So those things you can avoid, which will make you ill, you can avoid them. Those things which you were not conscious of, but which nonetheless was causing you ill health, you can address that. You know, so the books are useful handbooks, I would think, which could serve as useful literature, which you can walk around with and share with friends, gifts to individuals as gifts, which will help them to live better quality lives as far as the health is concerned.
Dr. Phillip, thank you for your time. I hope you'll come back on the show again and again. This is very important. We just barely got to the tip of all the subject matter, but it is fascinating. I appreciate you've written the books, and thank you for taking the time to come on the show.
I thank you very much.
And
thanks to you and your audience. Thank you.
And for our viewers, don't go anywhere. I'll be back with another author right after this.